Hi everybody. I had to redo my mid-year freakout tag video because the first time I did it I realized that I forgot a book. So great. Okay, so my favorite author's debut are new to me are C.G. Drews, who is the author of Don't Let the Forest In, who is coming out with a new release called Hazelthorn in September, which I'm really excited about. The next author that is debut or new to me is Richard Osman, the author of the Thursday Murder Club series. So this book is a murder mystery set in a nursing home where 5 elderly friends get together to solve murders in their nursing home, which is really fun. This book was super enjoyable. I could not put it down. I thought it was funny. And I'm very, very excited for the next book in the series, The Man Who Died Twice. This was also my favorite thriller of the year so far, besides Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak, who is my third favorite author of the year. And my final favorite author of the year, favorite new author of this year, is Hannah Bonham Young, who wrote Out on a Limb, which I listened to on audio back in January, so I do not have the physical book to show you. This book also features one of my favorite fictional crushes of the year, Beau. He will do anything for Win and his baby. So the thing I like about this book is the disability representation, because both of these characters have limb differences. Win has one arm and Beau has a prosthetic leg, and I just love how well Hannah Bonham Young wrote these disabilities with her characters and how they adapted to certain situations. All right, the next prompt is most disappointing new release. The first book is Great Big Beautiful Life. I don't want to get into this book too much because I did a whole tier ranking video after I finished reading this where I talked about what I didn't like about it, so that video will be linked in the description box below. My other most disappointing new releases were Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is the second book in the duology with Heartless Hunter. Heartless Hunter was a 5-star book for me. I read it last spring and I really loved it. And I loved how Rune and Gideon's relationship was building up. But in the second book, I wanted to throw my book across the room because Rune was the most obnoxious character I've ever read about in her fantasy romance. But I still like the development of the relationship between her and Gideon anyway. So these lyrics and lines had a similar opinion of this book to me, and I agree with their rating, which was 3 stars. The next 3 books are my favorite book club books from Books and Brews Book Club with Rachel Conrad. I will be doing a separate tier ranking list for my favorite books for Reading the Rainbow Book Club in a separate video. The first book that I really liked from Books and Brews is Harriet Tubman Live in Concert. I did not go to this meeting because I was too busy this week with my play for Port French, A Tincture of Time, which I will talk about in another video. This book was written by one of the drag queens on RuPaul's Drag Race, which I have never watched, but it was really, this book is so imaginative and creative, and I hope Bob the Drag Queen writes more books, because I would definitely read them. I gave this book 4.5 stars. And the next book, actually, all of these books were rated 4.5 stars for the book club books. The next book that I read for Books and Brews with Rachel Conrad is Margot's Got Money Troubles. This was our book for January, and it is being turned into a TV show with Elle Fanning, which I'm really excited to watch. So, in this book, we meet a girl who is 19 years old. She has an affair with her 45-year-old teacher, which is super disgusting. And they end up having a baby together, and then the teacher divorces her and leaves her to raise the baby alone, which is sad. She doesn't really have a strong relationship with either of her parents either. Her mom is not in the picture at all. It does not want to have anything to do with her. Her dad is a professional wrestler, so he's away a lot competing in his competitions, but he comes back to help her raise the baby. And I love how their relationship kind of rekindles after him being away for so long. So I gave this book 4 stars. I related to Margot's character not because of the relationship messiness, but because she's a social media influencer. Because to help her raise money for her kid, childcare, she makes really out there videos on this website called OnlyFans, which I guess is similar to YouTube. So I really enjoyed this book, and this is the first, I guess I should have put this author in favorite author, debut, or new to you, because this is the first book I ever read from this author, and I can't wait to read more from her. The last book from book club that was my favorite is Fagin the Thief. This is a villain origin story of Fagin from Oliver Twist, and it really humanizes Fagin and shows him like how caring he was towards his charges, who he teaches pickpocketing to. And there's also a little side romance going on between him and Bill Sikes, which is not part of the musical plot, which I thought was very interesting. So I gave all of the books for book club with Boards and Brews 4.5 stars. This book is a 5-star read. This was my favorite nonfiction book so far this year. My mother-in-law, Sally, gifted it to me in April, and I thank her for it. This is the memoir of the man who was one of the producers of Rent and Hamilton, which are 2 of my favorite musicals, and it's very interesting to learn like how he was raised and what got him into musical theater, and like what the behind the scenes things of Rent and Hamilton is like. Well, I already sort of knew a little bit about what behind the scenes at Rent was like because I read Anthony Rapp's memoir Without You, but I gave this book 5 stars. The next prompt is favorite new releases. And I had a 3-way tie for this prompt, and I had trouble choosing between them. The first book is Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood has had mixed opinions from me on her 2 releases so far this year. She's coming out with a new release in October, which is the sequel to Bride. This book is the second book in the series with Not in Love, which came out last April, and it focuses on the brother of Eli and his girlfriend Maya, who are going to their relative's wedding. And my favorite thing about this book was the scenery, because it is set in Taormina, Italy, which is near Sicily. And I just really love the setting of this. It was beautiful, and it makes me want to go back to Italy, much like a book that had a similar effect on me that I read earlier this year was called One Italian Summer. And if you listen to the audiobook of One Italian Summer, Lauren Graham narrates it, and she did a really good job. So this book gets 4.5 stars because of the Italian setting and because of the romantic dynamic between Connor and Maya. The next book that I chose for this prompt is Eat the Ones You Love, which is a sapphic horror novel that is set in a flower shop between the two employers, Shel and Neve. And to me, this book is a lesbian version of Little Shop of Horrors, and I would say that Shel is Audrey and Neve is Seymour. I don't know if that was the intent of this author, but I think she did a really good job. If she is a fan of Little Shop of Horrors, which I don't know if she is, but if she is, and if this was to be a lesbian reinterpretation of that musical, I think she hit the dynamic pretty well between Shel and Neve. And the plant in this book would obviously be Audrey too. So I gave this book 4.5 stars because it made me think of Little Shop of Horrors. Whether or not that was the intent of the author, as I said, I have no clue. The next book in favorite new releases is Say You Remember Me. This book also falls under newest celebrity crush because I love Xavier. He's so sweet. My other two favorite fictional crushes are in the next two books I'm going to talk about. So in this book, we have Xavier and Sam. They have their meet cute where Sam brings her sick cat to his vet clinic, and they fall in love, and they have a long-distance romance because Sam has to go back to her home in California to care for her sick mother who has dementia, and the family dynamics of the family caring for the mother with Alzheimer's reminded me a lot of what my parents and their siblings went through with caring for my grandmothers when they were sick. So I was able to personally connect to that, and I just love how Abby Jimenez creates characters that are so easy to relate to. The other characters of hers I relate to the most is Jacob from Yours Truly. The second to last prompt is favorite fictional crushes. I mentioned Bo from Out on a Limb. I mentioned Xavier from Say You Remember Me. My next favorite fictional crush is named Arthur Baird, and he is from this book I am currently reading right now called Earl Crush. This is set in like King Arthur times, and it's a romance between Lydia and Arthur, and he is just so sweet and so funny. He's kind of clueless that Lydia is in love with her, and I just love the dynamic of the relationship. This is another author that is debut or new to me, and so is the author of the next book that I read. So, I just started this book on Wednesday, and I am currently on chapter 18. This is the only book I am currently reading that is in this Meteor Freakout tag, by the way. The next book I wanted to talk about today is Love Letters for Joy by Melissa C. This is a YA romance book that is... So it focuses around two characters named Nathaniel and Joy. Joy has cerebral palsy, and she's also asexual. So I just love the rivals to lovers tension between Nathaniel and Joy. So there are some trigger warnings in this book for ableism, infertility, pregnancy, and a person being accidentally outed. So if those things trigger you, you should be warned and take care of yourselves while reading. But yeah, I mean, I loved this book. Again, this is another author that is new to me this year, and I really enjoyed her writing style. I can't wait to read more from her. The next prompt that I have is... the other fictional crush that I have before I move on to the next book. The next prompt, which is anticipated releases, is Wendell from Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I finished this series in April. Heather Fawcett's writing is so delightful and engaging. I love Wendell's dynamic with Emily. He made me laugh so hard. And he was a good foil to Emily's no-nonsense behavior, and I really loved his sense of humor. For those of you who have never read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, it's about a British educator who is really interested in fairy culture. So she goes to Scotland to a remote village to study fairy culture. And then her academic rival, Wendell, comes in to help her, even though she doesn't really want his help. So I really like their banter back and forth throughout all the three books, and how by the end they're together. Sorry for the spoiler if you guys haven't read the books yet. The second to last prompt I have for you guys today is anticipated releases for the second half of the year. I talked about Hazelthorn when I talked about C.G. Drews at the top of the video. Next book is Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This is a retelling of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that is from the point of view of the witch. And I'm really excited to read this because T. Kingfisher is a horror writer, but she also does fairy tale retellings. Her fairy tale retelling of Rapunzel that I read last year was a 5-star read for me. So I'm really excited to read that. So I'm cheating a little bit because this next new release does not come out until next winter, but I want to take an opportunity to talk about how excited I am for this book. One of my favorite booktubers, Haley Pham, is coming out with her first romance book called Just Friends in March 2026. I have been following her progress of writing her book on her YouTube channel when I am not watching her book reviews. And it has been so much fun to see her develop her characters and go through her first and second draft. So I'm super excited for her, and I can't wait for her book to come out. The next book is Mate. This is the second book in the series with Bride. It's coming out on October 7th. So I'm super excited for that because Bride was a 5-star read for me last year. And I can't wait to read it again in preparation for Mate. In preparation for Mate. I'm sorry for all my coughing today, you guys. My allergies are acting up today really bad. The next book is called Rose in Chains. This is by Julie Soto, the author of Forget Me Not and Not Another Love Song. She is a really good writer, and I love the romantic tension between her characters, especially in her last book, Not Another Love Song, because this book focuses on 2 musicians who are in an orchestra, and their romantic tension is basically poured into playing their music, so I really liked those scenes better than any other smutty scenes I've read in any other romance books that I've been reading. The next book is Second Chance Romance by Olivia Dade. Olivia Dade has written the Spoiler Alert series, and this is the second book in her Harlot's Bay series, which is set in Tennessee or someplace down south. I read the first book in this series last March. It's called At First Bite. So I'm really excited to see what characters are going to be in this next book and how their romance develops. And judging from the title, Second Chance Romance, I have a feeling that one person in this couple was in love with the other person a long time ago, and they're reconnecting after a long time of being apart, because that's what the whole trope of Second Chance Romance is about. For those of you not familiar with that romance trope. The next release I'm excited about is called The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. She writes the most amazing gothic horror books. I have read by her Silver Nitrate, which was 4.5 stars. Mexican Gothic, which is 5 stars. And The Seventh Bill of Salome, which was last summer's release. It came out on August 6th. And by the title of this book, I can tell that it's about witches. So I'm really excited to read this book. I love this author's writing style and the settings of her book. They transport you back to a different time period. The final book is the last book in the Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver. The second book in this series is my favorite so far. It's called Wild Love. But Elsie Silver does a really good job of developing the relationships between her characters. And also the kids in her books are really adorable too. So I can't wait to see what the couple in this book is like. And finally, so Gabby and a couple of other booktubers, have done these videos called If You Like This Book, Read, Watch This TV Show, or Watch This Movie. So I decided to take that video idea and use it to review my last book in this video. So if you like the episode of Punky Brewster where they talk about the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion, it's called It's called Accidents Happen. You will like Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is another book I'm currently reading. I am almost done with it, and I should probably finish it today. I am on page 266. I love her writing. She has been my favorite author ever since I started one of my favorite authors since before I started BookTube. Besides her, I also love Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez. So this book is set in the 1980s in Texas during the time when they are starting to build the space program. So it's like it's in the years before the Challenger explosion. But if you are interested in astronauts, I think you should watch that episode of Punky Brewster and then read this book. For those of you who do not know, Punky Brewster was another show that is my favorite sitcom from my childhood besides Friends and Will and Grace. And if you don't know me, as a kid, I used to wear mismatched socks a lot of the time, like Punky Brewster did, so I really emulated her a lot in my personality. Oh, and my last prompt of this video is favorite translated book. My favorite books for this prompt were Days at the Murasaki Bookshop, The Magical Language of Others, which is a book about dealing with grief that I did not bring over to put in the stack, but I do have that. Welcome to the Hayangdong Bookshop, which is another book I forgot to bring over, and The Memory Police, which I listened to on audio back in March. I hope you guys have a good day. Again, I'm sorry for my coughing during this episode. My allergies are really acting up today. Have a great afternoon.